Hello and welcome to FlyByWire Simulations episode number 2 for In the Hangar, our live Q&A session with our developers and some 320 pilots here in the team. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, or today, wherever you are in the world, and we have a whole host of questions given to us by you guys in the community that we want to answer as best as we possibly can. Joining us today from left to right, we have Aries, our A320 pilot, Boris, Ice, and Inax. We have myself, Pleasure, and then we also have Saves with us today. So once again, thank you very much for joining us. And if you have any questions throughout the stream today, please feel free to send us your questions into the chat, and we'll happily add them on to the end. And hopefully, or we should, get onto them, like I said, near the end. So I'm going to kick it off. First of all, going to go straight to Ice as the owner of the project as a whole. In terms of the product, like the Zebo, will the A32NX get to a point where it is no longer reliant on the default content and therefore can be fully distributed by the team, aka become its own product, not a mod?
Yep, so that's currently the plan. We eventually want this to be a separate plane that shows up when you load in the sim. Obviously, there's some obstacles to that, being that a lot of the default planes in Microsoft Flight Simulator use a lot of shared code. So what you have to do is basically isolate all that shared code so that it doesn't conflict with existing shared code for other planes, and then once we do that completely, then we can package this as its own plane. So that's eventually the plan. Hopefully we'll get to do that. If not in this upcoming stable release, then very well in the near future.
Also, and in terms of the model, I'm aware that obviously at the moment we're using Microsoft's or Asobo's model. I'm interested to hear of Pleasure, what's your thoughts on in terms of it becoming its own product? Is a model feasible in the future, or do you think at the moment it's not worth looking at?
I mean, at the moment, I don't think it's worth doing a complete remodel of the A320 because we have a model that is not that bad, especially from the exterior. We do need to see where the export-import is going, and then if we are able to change things, then it should be fine. In terms of the separate product, we also know that it actually shares probably some textures. For example, the blur textures for the front cone, I actually found out today that they're not in the A320 texture files at all. So I'm guessing that they are shared between multiple aircraft. So we would have to use them as well. I mean, we can if people want to do a complete new plane. It's not like it's impossible, but it would take a really long time to do that. I think it would be better to actually use the plane we have because it means we can push out updates more easily and fast.
Okay, so it's not something that's going to come anytime soon. To people that wish it's going to come, it's a lot more work than we'd actually thought it would be, and hopefully it will come. But that's something that we've got to wait and see. But for now, it's just going to remain as the mod on the current model of the 320 with Asobo's model. Going to quickly ask Sabes this. How will this project react to changes made by Asobo to the aircraft, as we've seen in previous updates? If they add a functionality to a button, will the mod or the official version take over? Which one will have priority?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we had a big discussion in Discord maybe about a week ago with the recent update talking about hard forking everything within the project, meaning that we would become completely independent from any Asobo changes. So as you may as well know, every update so far has pretty much broken the aircraft for the first few hours until all the contributors do a lot of hard work and try and fix the problems. So if we hard fork it, it means we're completely separated from all that. And what we do is we upload all of the core files into a separate branch, and we just compare it to the old version to see what was changed. And then from there, we can just pick in, well, it's cherry picking is what we call it, what we want from that file. And that would allow us to implement new functionality.
Awesome. So when anything that's in the mod essentially takes over whatever's added in.
Yep, so the priority system, everything in the mod completely overrides the default stuff, so there's no mixing between what should take priority.
Okay, brilliant. Just go on to the next question. Again, it's to use saves, but feel free, Ice, if you have an input into this as well. Will there be a TCAS implemented in the mod at some point? And if it does, or if there is, if this is possible, can it be linked with Vatsim?
Yeah, I'm sure Ice would like to add on this as well, but there was someone working on a TCAS implementation. It's partly working. I'm not too sure on what the status is anymore. But last I remember, there was a semi-working TCAS implementation. But as far as Vatsim, I'm not too sure yet, but I would imagine it would still work as Vatsim spawns in kind of AI traffic.
Yeah, so I believe Luke was working on that. It's mostly done. I believe he just has to work on like resolution advisories, RAs, tweak that a bit. And I believe third-party ATC services, their clients use like the AI SimConnect features, so it should theoretically work with Vatsim, iVal, Pilot Edge, anything else like that.
That's brilliant, thank you. Just a question now on QA testers and QA programs. So I know Inax is here, but he's unable to speak. He hasn't got a microphone at the moment, so I'll answer the question on his behalf, as he sent me in the earlier today. So the question is, as this is a massive open source project, what are you doing to prevent malicious content and activities, and how are you checking the quality before releases? So a lot of you may know we have a QA program, quality assurance program, where we open applications up every now and then, and they test vigorously each pull request. So every single person that submits a pull request, each single one is tested by our QA testers, and feedback is given whether a functionality works or doesn't work quite as what it's described to do. And with the feedback, the devs rework what they've already done until it's satisfied both the QA testers and the core dev team before being merged with the master branch. So it's a requirement for every single pull request to undergo this process, and that makes sure that when we release a brand new version, that we're not having major issues, as you may see, is updates in other products. So hopefully that should rest these any worries about any malicious content or problems with the actual with the mod itself.
I do want to say to that, the QA testers do a really good job, and Inix basically provided them with a workflow they basically go by. So they have always provide info how they test things, the procedure they do, and so the QA testers really test the features that were implemented, and then test them again by another QA tester, and they report if they have bugs, and if there are bugs, the developer can fix it and provide another pull request, basically update the pull request, and it's being tested again. So we try, and it actually does work quite well, that the bugs that get introduced into the dev version are as little as possible. Sometimes it does happen that something slips through, but it's gonna, I mean, what it was a bug last I think last night or some time ago, and it was fixed in a matter of hours in the dev version. So yeah, love what the QA testers do.
And at the end of the day, it's not just the QA testers that need to test or have to test it. You know, you guys, the community, can test. Our A320 pilots, such as Aries here, they test as well, and make sure the systems are as realistic as possible. And we'll ask Aries a little bit later about his thoughts on some of the systems, on the progress that they're making, and what he's seen so far. So We'll come to Aries a little bit later on his thoughts as an A320 pilot. Going to Iceman or Sabes, in terms of programming, are you looking to implement Hoppie's ACARS for the PDC? Or is that even possible from your end? What is the status of the CPDLC?
Iceman, you want to take it?
Sure, here, I'll take this question. So, at the moment, I'm currently working on the AOC, ATSU, that kind of thing. I don't see us working with Hoppie just because it's a little bit outdated in my personal opinion. Ideally, we would want to run our own kind of CPDLC ACARS system ourselves. The question of whether we can integrate it with existing ATC networks is something that I don't know at the moment. Ideally, we would want to partner with Vatsim or iVal if they're interested. If not, then a lot of that kind of thing is undecided at the moment. Coming in the next, I can tell you for sure that coming in the next stable update is a feature to request weather uplink, ATIS for either any airport in the US, live ATIS, or ATIS from currently active Vatsim, iVal, Pilot Edge airports, as well as a free text feature. So you can basically message anyone else in real time who's currently using the FlyByWire mod, which is pretty cool. So that's what's currently in store for the next stable release. But anything apart from that is undecided at the moment.
Fantastic. So, to be fair, that's one of the most exciting news that I've been waiting for over the past few weeks, and seeing the developments of that has been really impressive. So, obviously, it shows the skill level of the guys here, being able to implement such things that most sims don't even have at the moment anyway. So yeah, so next question goes over to Pleasure in terms of modelling. Any plans on adding a complete passenger aisle? And what about better custom passenger seat views?
Yes, so we do want to add a passenger aisle. The problem is how to do it, right? Because the model is split in two parts, the third person part and the first person part. Do we add it to the first person part? It would decrease performance a bit. Do we add it to the third person part? It might mean that you can't actually see it from the first person view. So you would have to switch to the third person view. So we do already have modeled seats. We do want to add a cabin if the performance is not as decreased. So if we will have to see how bad of frame rate drops it will make. If it's 10 or 15 frames and it basically makes the plane unflyable, we will have to see how else we can do it. So I would say probably, but if it has too much frame drops in the first person, we might have to add it in the third person, which means that it only is visible if you go to a specific camera. But I mean, it's something we definitely want to do. That's why I modeled the seats anyway. But we do have to see how the performance handles after we can change the model and import it back, and then we can see the performance and then if it's feasible or not.
Fantastic. And again with you, what is the status of the EFB?
Yes, so the EFB we got from David on the reg is basically a very high poly model, so I have to recreate it to be usable in game, which isn't that big of a deal. So the model is technically, I mean, it's modeled. I have to recreate it in low poly with normal map, which doesn't take long. It would probably, if I would start working on it today, which I can't because my dad's here from holiday. So basically, it would take me maybe 1 or 2 days to model it. But of course, and yeah, the exporter is actually going really good. I just read Aiden, and the exporter he's doing really good progress in it. So it actually is maybe not so far away as I actually thought. So once we have that going, it's basically a matter of days until the EFB can be physically inserted, and then it's up to the programmers to add the functionality.
Great, thank you. Answered 2 questions in one there. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Pleasure. We're going to go over to Boris now. So, Boris, you can now come into this. In terms of sounds, do you have a plan for voice control of buttons to simulate a co-pilot?
Well, we are in the very early stages of this, and we do plan to have the pilot calling out things like 100 knots and V1, things like that. But it's in very early stages, and we're just starting it out. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And in terms of the engine sounds, were you making the buzz roar as people request for the engine sounds?
So yeah, that's really good. We are actually almost finished with the Leap 1A engine sounds, and they're being critiqued by real pilots to be as accurate as they possibly can. And the Leap does have a buzz roar, like it said, so yeah, that will be in too.
Brilliant. So I know the sound work that you've been doing is pretty amazing. People can get it in the mod at the moment. If they go into the latest mod version, you'll be able to get the latest sounds. Right, a few quick fire questions. It won't take long to answer. Some of them are in-game, some of them are part of development. So a quick one for you. Where can I get the checklists of the A32NX?
Do you mean like in-game checklists or like physical like paper copies you can kind of print out?
In-game checklists that we've added.
In-game checklists. It should be in the menu bar, top toolbar. You should be able to just click the checklist button, and there's the like really comprehensive set of checklists that our developers worked on. It'll guide you from cold and dark to takeoff, and everything in between.
In terms of them checklists, is it possible to do a flow through? So does it guide you to the buttons and switches that you need to go to, like the default checklist does, or does the bits that we've added not quite do that yet?
I believe some of them do. I haven't looked at the checklist feature in a while, so I can't speak to that. If anyone else has used it recently, they might be able to give a better view on that.
I think I've tested it not long ago, and I think majority that I've clicked they go to the buttons and switches. So anyway,
if you
go.
Sorry, yeah, if you go ahead and click there's a little icon next to what it's telling you to do, and it usually takes you and highlights it in blue.
There we go. So they should all be there, shouldn't they? I think. But if not, obviously they will be worked on if they're not there. But I'm pretty sure they are. Pleasure. Is it possible to fix the lights from the ground, which lights up the cockpit?
So I'm not technically doing the lights. The lights do not have something to do with modeling, but it is definitely possible. And we have someone working on lights. Why can't I?
I mean, Harry, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, Harry. Yeah, exactly. Harry does the lights mostly, and if we can message him, and you should basically the guy who made the question should open an issue on GitHub, so we actually can see that it's a bug. And if in the real life it is actually not as much light, then it can be fixed. Yes, so definitely yes. But we need to know: is it really a bug? Is it just I don't like the light, or how does it look in real life? We have lots of pilots that give us feedback how the lights should look, and we try to tweak it as they suggest. And it is not always perfect. For example, the overhead light is probably a bit too bright, which will be tweaked by Harry. He already told me he's working on tweaking that to make it a bit less bright. So it's always being tweaked when we get feedback. So it's really important to, if you have something that you would like to change and you know it's actually different in real life, just post an issue on GitHub so we can know that it's wrong and can change it.
Yeah, and to add on to that, if you create an issue, if you can provide any references like from like a video of a real A320 or documentation, that'd be super helpful. Also, be sure that if you're creating an issue, to search first, because there's a lot of common issues that get reposted pretty much every day. Like, for example, the plane banking left on touchdown. That's something that we're aware of. I believe there should be an open issue for that, but just go ahead and do a quick search beforehand. Make sure it doesn't already exist, because dealing with issues, there's almost 300 or 400 now. It's really time consuming as well. So you kind of want to narrow it down to just the ones that we need to focus on.
Another one, will you integrate an external fuel planner?
Actually, yeah, that's something that I was looking into. Well, I have to decide whether we're going to keep it in the EFB or, if possible, like have a fuel request functionality in the MCDU. But yeah, that's something we hope to add eventually. We just have to figure out the fuel system because there's really not documentation on that either. So you kind of have to figure that out by trial and error.
Brilliant, and pleasure. Will you add details to the spoilers?
I mean, yes, once we can edit the model and import it back in, we want to get the model as close as possible to real life. So we will try to add details. Of course, you have to remember that performance is always an issue. So if we would, I mean, technically we could model the entire thing with the engine parts and all the pipes and stuff, but then you would have 1 FPS flying, right? So we want to add details where you can see it mostly. So it's not much use to basically model a detail you will never see on the plane. So yes, we want to add details and things we can do, as long as the performance is not impacted too much. So we're trying to balance it a bit, right?
Brilliant, thank you. I feel like this next one's quite a long one, and I'm interested to hear what Aries has to say with this. How close to the real MCDU will you be able to get to? What are the limitations of achieving this, and what can we expect of the MCDU?
Yeah, the MCDU is an extremely complicated part of the airplane. It's literally the brains of the aircraft. There's a lot of things that need to go into the MCDU. We do have the Honeywell manual, the Step 1 Alpha for the Pegasus manual that we are using in order to create the MCDU. I believe so far a lot of the things we're taking it kind of one thing at a time, from the data page, the init page, the flight plan page, and so forth. There's so many little fine details that go into developing those pages that it's going to take some time in order to do so. But I'd have to say that as far as progress is concerned, things have been moving along pretty well. The most difficult page that I see for implementation, to be honest, is probably the flight plan page with all the lateral, vertical revision pages, as well as sequencing properly. The devs would have to probably give a little more input on that as far as how complicated that is. But I do see this MCDU becoming extremely realistic as far as features are concerned and the pages are concerned.
Yeah, the flight plan page or anything that interacts with the routes especially is going to take time to work on, because what happens is that the code for navigation, waypoints, flight plans, all that is created using FS9 GPS. So that's literally comes from its name from FS9. So it's a really old kind of system that's just been kept around for some reason, I guess for compatibility, but it makes working with it a pain. So it's just a lot of spaghetti code to get through and kind of just tweak a bit. So eventually, once we get to the point where we hard fork and kind of have the mod as its own package, then we can go in depth and kind of tweak all of the shared FMC and MCDU code that we couldn't touch before. So it'll get there. It'll just take time.
Yeah, and another big thing is a lot of the performance is concerned, because there's not a whole lot of charts out there that we can take and develop, your V speeds, your V approach, and all of that stuff that goes into the performance of the aircraft. So a lot of those calculations are a little difficult right now, considering the limited amount of performance paperwork that we have available to us and documentation. Because a lot of the stuff that they use these days are based upon a computer program that they input this data into, and then it spits out these numbers and distances and landing distances, takeoff performance, your VAP. The computer does it itself to determine your VAP. But as far as the other things are concerned, it's we don't really have a whole lot of that performance information. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, I believe when we were looking at the EFB, it's basically like existing programs like real EFBs that are used to calculate that kind of data. It's basically a black box. We don't know how they calculate it, so it's just an iterative process to kind of change it a bit, see if that works, get feedback from pilots and QA testers, and then just keep going back and changing and tweaking it until we get it as close as we possibly can.
Right. I mean, legitimately, the only thing that as a pilot that we really use that isn't computer generated, if we didn't have a data uplink to AWIP, which is ACARS, it's a performance management group that will send you your landing performance data, all that stuff. There's really the only performance charts as a pilot that we use is the landing distance, and that's really all we have available as far as that type of performance in the QRH. Everything else is pretty much developed via a computer program.
Thank you. What you guys can now see on screen is one of our 320 pilots, Tarek, who is doing a cold and dark start with the latest version of the mod all the way through to a circuit and back down on the ground. So you'll be able to see some of the new features that have been added over the past few weeks. And if you haven't had a chance to get a go on the mod, then you'll be able to see what we've done over here. So obviously you can feast your eyes on that. Sabes, just a quick question. Are you going to add proper SIDs and stars to the MCDU in the future?
Yeah, so it works both ways with us and the actual base game. So the base game has quite a few missing SIDs or stars or fixes, any waypoints. A lot of information is missing. But there is a known problem with the current MCDU where I believe no star. So if the airport doesn't have any star, then I think what it's doing is overriding it, and it only gives you maybe 1 or 3 results when it maybe has 4 or 5. It's an issue I've been looking into the past couple of days just to try and figure out what the problem is. But in terms of adding proper SIDs and stars, the way I'm interpreting that question is more of a base game issue.
Brilliant, thank you. And also alongside the MCDU, there's the flight controls. Someone was wondering that there's been a problem with the Airbus right now where landing it banks to the left. I don't know whether you experienced that yourself. Do you know when it will be fixed, or is it fixable on our end?
Yeah, it's been a known issue for quite some time. It's kind of when you hit around kind of 140 knots. I personally don't know what the issue is yet. There's a lot of theories, such as the wing might be stalling or the ground effect is just too strong. But in terms of getting it fixed, I can't give a definite answer.
Aries, I'm just interested in your thought. Is it something that happens a little bit in real life in terms of flying the 320 that it does bank to either side, or is that just something in the sim?
That would be a simism. That does not happen in the real aircraft. That would be really bad if that occurred.
But so at least we know it's not something that they tried to implement to be realistic. It is just purely a problem in the sim. So hopefully that can be something that we find out in the future. How long in the future, we're not quite sure yet, but hopefully we'll find out soon. Pleasure, going over to you. What's happening with the tray table in the cockpit?
So yeah, the tray table is something that is technically not really useful, but it is fun, and it's definitely something we want to implement. I love small details. It is a tray table, and once we can edit the model, we can make it work. The programmers just have to basically add somehow an option that we can open and close it, and then we add an animation, and it opens and closes what you actually want to do with it. I don't know. I mean, we could hide a checklist on there, or yeah. I mean, it's the tray table, so
I actually do have an idea. I was just toying around with it in my head. What we could do with the trade table once it's implemented. One thing is that, especially with once like ACARS and AOC and that kind of stuff is in the mod, a lot of things you might want to print out. So usually in the real aircraft, you hit the print button, it'll print out from the printer on the bottom right side of the pedestal. I'm hoping once you have access to the model, we could do something neat where it's like once you hit print, a little like paper thing will be animated to come out of that. You click on it and you can add it to kind of like store it in the trade table. So you have in the trade table, you can kind of sort through like different printouts you have. I don't know whether people would be interested in that, but it's something that I was considering we could use, since normally the trade table wouldn't really have a use in the sim.
So one thing I wanted to add is because we love like these kind of details. That's some of you probably saw in the Discord that I just modeled a flyby coffee cup with a flyby text and logo and everything, and that's kind of small details I love to see. And because the cockpit has that little cup holder, that's where we probably will place it. It's a small model which doesn't affect performance at all, so we can add it without any problem. And it's something you can just, some little things you can find. We also have like a fly-by-wire keychain. We're not sure where we're going to put it, but when you look, and we're probably even not going to say it, so you just look around and you see some small things, right? And it's like, oh, nice, I didn't know that was there, and stuff like that. I think those kind of Easter eggs are really fun to make and put into the game.
Yeah, maybe we could have Boris add some coffee sloshing sounds. So if you bank or pitch really hard, you'll hear that. So I think that'd be something.
That is actually possible. If enough request is needed, then I can add it totally.
Absolutely love the idea of coffee sloshing around. Thanks, guys.
I'd like to correct pleasure, though. The tray table is the most important part of the aircraft. That's where I eat my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, by the way. And where I put all my paperwork and checklists.
Of course, you'd be.
I've just lost where I was going to go for this question now. For there's a question about shared cockpit now. So I know this is something that's been going around Flight Simulator since it came out, really. Are there any plans to add a shared cockpit to the mod? Are we able to do that, or do you think it's something that only really Asobo and Microsoft can do?
Oh yeah, I'll let Sabes take this one.
Yeah, so shared cockpit is definitely we're more than capable to do that. There's already an open source project out there for shared cockpit that works pretty well. In terms of getting it to work with our mod, I don't think it's too difficult. All we need to do is just tweak simvars and stuff, so it aligns. But in terms of getting your displays to be the exact same, it's pretty much always been an issue in Flight Sim to try and get displays to match up correctly. But in terms of us making our own shared cockpit, it's more than possible.
Brilliant. So I know that's something that's been going around with Asobo as well, that they've been asked the questions about shared cockpit as well, and they haven't really shared much information about that coming. So obviously, if we can get there first, then it'll be quite good for us.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add to that?
I think so.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Brilliant. What are the status of the brake fans? Is it again just something that we're waiting for modelling to be able to access the aircraft, or?
Yeah, so brake fans are part of an optional package when you buy an A320 as an airline. It looks like the one that we have in the sim hasn't got it. So that's more of a modelling thing. Once we get an exporter working, you can have a brake fan system implemented.
Once we do get the brake fan working, we can add a sound for it too that plays on the outside and can be slightly heard in the cockpit like it is in real life.
Yeah, but it just comes down to modeling, waiting on the exporter.
Make sure to mute your sound when you have the brake fans running.
What I also want to add is it has to do with the brake fans, but mostly modeling in general as well. If we add options, for example, for different types of models, for different types of MCDUs or stuff like that. I've read that people asked if it can be changed in the EFB, and basically you just press a button and you just have a different model. I am not sure that is possible like that. I mean, the programmers would have to see if that is possible, but I just can't imagine it, because the aircraft is loaded as a model, and if you change the model, it would have to basically reload an entirely different aircraft. So I do think if we would add different variants, that you would probably, I mean, the programmer can chip in as well, choose it before installing, and then it would be that aircraft with that variation. But I don't know if,
It's definitely possible through the installer. I believe too, there's functionality in the SimConnect API that allows us to edit files in our own package directory. So it might very well be possible to just move certain like model files around, but it would require you to restart the aircraft. So you can change, like, let's say, like add a heads-up display or remove a heads-up display in the EFB, and then it'll just say requires plane reload. So you just restart the flight, it'll reload all the model files that were changed, and then you should be good to go. That's just in theory. We haven't tried that out yet, obviously, because we haven't made any changes to the model, but hopefully it's something that we can do.
Brilliant. And in terms of the cockpit again, when can we expect display reflections to come into play?
I would say when the model exporter is done. We have posted some renders a while back in the progress channel or Discord. Those were done in a separate program, and I believe we were able to get some in the game. But the problem is they use the Asobo uses the wrong, like they only have a certain like set of cube maps for reflections, and it's just a completely wrong plane. And some of like the finger smudges or like scratches were repetitive, so it's like the same texture tiling on every display. So that didn't really look realistic. We didn't want to put that in. Didn't meet our standards. So we're just going to add a custom cube map and texture, like overlay texture, whatever, for every single display once we have access to the exporter.
Brilliant. And speaking of optimization kind of things, what work has the team done to optimize the mod to have less effect on the frames in the sim?
Sure, yeah. So we haven't touched any of the model yet, obviously, so there's nothing in regards to that's affected performance for a mod. But a lot of like the display codes, the JavaScript that runs the display codes, the default aircraft had a fair amount of repetitive, like simvar calls, for example, which gets data from the sim. So what we're doing right now is we're optimizing it to only call those functions when it's absolutely necessary. So to remove unnecessary calls, repetitive code, all of that to improve performance. People have noted that there is a slight performance drop in the last stable update because of the captains and first officers displays desync. So if you recall, when the default A320 shipped out, basically the EFIS control knobs and the primary flight display navigation display were synced between the captain and first officer sides. One of our developers took a lot of time, worked on it hard, and came out with a pull request to desync them. We implemented that. Problem is, since they're now separate displays, they run separate instances of the code, so it does decrease performance a bit. So we're going to keep that feature in the desync, obviously, because it's more realistic. But right now we're focused on just optimizing the individual code for the primary flight display and navigation display, removing unnecessary calls and all that. And by the next stable update, you should see a pretty good increase in performance.
So,
go ahead.
you first, Saves.
Yeah, just to add on to what Ice was saying about the separated F4 displays, I know it does have a major impact on your frames if you're on a kind of mid-low tier system. I'm on a mid system myself, and a good workaround that I've came up with is just lowering the refresh rate from high to medium on the displays, and it does give me a noticeable performance boost.
So from the modeling and texturing side, I can tell you right now, there will most likely be less optimization and more addition to which costs frame rate. But that's what we try to keep at a minimum. That's why we're trying to add models as low poly. I mean, they still be quite high poly because if they're close to you, right? But we are adding normal map to reduce the polygons and to make it still look good. But it definitely will increase poly counts. It will increase textures, so it will cost a bit of performance at some point. We currently even added 4K textures for the cockpit and for the overhead panel, which is, as far as I know from the testers, doesn't affect your performance that much because it's just one texture that's switched, or rather two. But at some point you will probably notice a few frames of performance loss, and we will be able, if people want that, include lower res textures so they can maybe gain a few frames again, but it won't make that much of a difference. But the frames in terms of modeling and texturing will decrease. That's just the way it is. If we add stuff, it increases the polygons, increases the amount of textures. It will decrease the performance. That's nothing we can actually change.
But hopefully by then, by the time we get to any significant changes like that, Microsoft might push out DirectX 12 for the sim, so it might kind of cancel each other out. So we'll see.
Really, thank you. In terms of Microsoft and Asobo, what's the status of getting help from Asobo or any communication from Asobo?
Yeah, so obviously we had that really upvoted post on their forums, wishlist post to support us and other third-party mods. And they addressed that in their last Q&A, where they basically said they really like our mod, even like the Asobo CEO likes all of our Twitter, all of our tweets. So I guess they really love our mod. The only issue is because they're working, they worked on the A320, they have a license that they have to work with Airbus in regards to that. So they can't like support our mod or make any other significant changes without getting an approval from Airbus first. I believe they said they sent out a request and they're still waiting to hear back from Airbus. So yeah, it's all up to Airbus now. So if anyone got connections high up at Airbus, let us know and we might be able to figure something out. But honestly, the main thing obviously is just getting the model. And with the amazing progress that Aiden's been working on with the exporter, I don't see that being much of an obstacle anytime soon. So ideally, the only thing that a partnership with the Asobo Microsoft would offer us would just to be putting the mod directly in the marketplace.
I mean,
yeah, that's the current status.
I want to add something to the model. Yes, it's if the importer and exporter is working perfectly, we can make changes to the model. But if they would still send us the model at some point, it would still be an improvement because it's not triangulated. So it's way easier to edit the model. We can manually untriangulate it, but it would take days, weeks, probably months even to do that. So even if we have the exporter and importer working, if they would at some point give us the source model, it would make our life way, way easier, and we could probably make higher quality changes to the model.
That's great, thank you very much. Sabes, coming back to you. In terms of bug fixing now, would you consider working to fix bugs and then focus on more features? Considering there are quite a number of bug reports now or issues now in the GitHub, would you consider working on them before you implement new features, or you do both at the same time?
So that question itself is very touchy, just because it's an open source community. You know, nobody's required to do any work at all. But in regards to what are we at right now, 398 issues on GitHub. Some of them are duplicates, some of them are requests. They're not all bugs. But in terms of trying to delegate tasks to people and to prioritize fixing bugs more than adding new features is a very difficult thing to do. And to ask people to do that would kind of go against the whole open source project. So in regards to that, we can't control on what comes in and what comes out. But we can definitely encourage people to, you know, maybe try new things and try and fix things. But you know, it's very hard to say.
Yeah, we do get any of the major bugs that are causing quite big issues with a lot of people. That we tend to sort them out pretty quickly. Obviously, we don't want people not being able to fly the aircraft at all, or all the like little tiny things. They just more or less get done as and when people have the ability to get into the aircraft and test it for themselves and try and fix it.
Yeah, and just to reiterate what Iceman said earlier, if you are making an issue on GitHub, in fact, I'll just talk about GitHub for a second, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, to all that are watching, if you don't know what GitHub is, it's pretty much just a place where open source projects can put code up and anybody can collaborate, depending on their guidelines or whatever. But you can create an account for free, and you can essentially just create feature requests or bug reports that's provided. There's a template provided to you, and if you are just making an issue that you're concerned about, then just follow the template that we were saying earlier, and just do the courtesy of double checking to see if it's already there, just to save everyone a bit of time in trying to navigate through issues.
Yeah, and if anyone is interested in helping out with the project, developing it all, we're more than glad to assist any newcomers to getting up to speed with how to work on it. If you have any experience in programming whatsoever, or even just modeling, texturing, that kind of thing. In terms of programming, the display, the base like code is written in HTML, XML, and JavaScript. If you have any experience with Python, that's what we're mainly using right now for the backend API to work with all the AOC uplink stuff. And if you have any experience with C++ or Rust, that's what we're using for like the SimConnect code to work on FlyByWire, Autopilot, some of the systems code from scratch. So we have pretty much a spot for anyone who wants to hop in and help out.
Yeah, and we have an entire wiki and Discord for people to help you out with if you're a newcomer.
So in terms of modeling and texturing, if you want to help out, we would appreciate it, even though you don't need to, of course. You can always make a pull request on your own if you want to, that you contact one of the core dev modelers, which is Dark of Nova or me, because some of us already working on stuff, and if you want to change textures, you will have to use the latest version we actually made if they are already changed. And I also have already published a Substance project which has all the latest textures, and you can actually open the Substance project and change textures and make a pull request if you want to change those. We always, of course, want to make the textures as real as possible, so ask pilots if it's realistic, look at pictures, provide reference pictures, and so on. But everyone is most welcome to help texturing and modeling. Just contact us first to see what you can work on or what you want to work on, and then it's easier to organize in that regard.
Brilliant, thank you. We have a question here, which I'll answer now, and anyone else who has any thoughts as well can come in as well. Would you guys consider a deep dive video series into the A320 systems, perhaps like a couple of videos of some engineers on the Discord? So we are working on that at the moment. The core media team are working with a few individuals creating the videos and targeted systems that we're going to talk about. We want to make the videos worthwhile for you to be able to understand in depth how the system works. And so that is a project that we're working on, and we're hoping to deliver the first video very soon, and that will go out on our YouTube, and you'll find out on our Discord and our social media when they'll be coming. Obviously, we'll be speaking to the 320 pilots and engineers like myself and anyone else in the Discord who has experience on the 320 and the integrated systems, and we'll be producing a video series on that. And then also another thing added to that, a question about tutorials and how to operate the aircraft with the added, what was at first a basic A320, which is now being developed quite quickly into a complex machine. We are producing videos at the moment, which are tutorial videos, basic tutorial videos on how to use the systems. We've got one at the moment, which is a current startup from Gate. So that's a push and start from Gate. from Cold and Dark. That one's coming out very soon, and we'll be sending out more videos very soon as well for any beginners who want to get started on the 320. So yes, they are coming. If you wish to take part in it at all, then feel free to contact me, and we'll figure out a way for you to be able to get involved in either producing one of these videos or having your say in what you'd like in the video itself. So feel free to message me. I don't know if anyone else has got any answer to them.
You go
Go ahead.
first, Dave. All right. All right, I'll go first. So I might actually do some small tutorials about modeling and texturing. They won't be as complex because I work with Max and most other people work with Blender, but I can do a basic how the models should be produced and low poly, high poly, why you do a low poly and a high poly to make the normal map, and I can do a basic substance tutorial maybe. Just have to check when I have time for that, and then I might publish that, and then people can get into texturing as well.
Yeah, just what I was going to say is we're a big community. I mean, a lot of people use the aircraft already, so there's probably a lot of tutorials anyway on YouTube right now that show you how to start up the aircraft as well.
Yeah, we have 320 Sim Pilot. He's got a good few tutorials out of our 320 mod on how to start it Cold and Dark, and even just watching normal flights from various YouTubers, you'll be able to pick up how to use the aircraft. And alongside that, there is the checklist. So if you don't want to watch the video, the checklist literally guides you to each button and switch you've got to press and turn to start the aircraft, and it tells you each stage of flight. So feel free to use the checklists and hopefully watch our videos in the future. We're getting near the end. Oh, we're gone.
And if you're really lazy, then you can just press Control-V.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it, really. Or just start on the runway and just go from there. We're getting near the end. We are past the hour mark. I'm aware we started a little bit later, so we've got a couple of more questions before we finish off. So, in terms of the MCDU, do you think you'll be able to implement the hold function anytime soon, or will that be once you've completely reformatted the MCDU?
I'm not entirely sure because I know there is one current developer working on the hold page. I think there's like a front end for that now, but the actual functionality isn't implemented yet. That's working with FS9 GPS, so it gets a bit tricky. It's going to come, but I just don't know when. Basically, that's the answer we have.
Yeah, in terms of the MCDU, I don't think there's any limitations as far as I know quite yet. It is just a matter of time.
Brilliant. And in terms of landing, is the aircraft eligible to Autoland at any point in the future? We'll be able to implement that?
That'll probably come a while after our custom autopilot and fly-by-wire system is implemented, because we want to stay as true as we can to the real aircraft. You currently can activate both autopilots and it will try to autoland, but the default behavior coded by Asobo isn't really true to like what an actual autoland would be. It doesn't flare. Proper modes aren't implemented, so yeah, that'll be coming, but it's a while away.
Brilliant. And we'll go on to the final questions now. I'm going to go for each one of you. What's your favourite thing so far, and what are you looking forward to implementing in the next couple of updates? So I'll go to Aries. What is your favourite thing so far that you've seen, and what are you looking forward to be implemented to enhance the aircraft's realism, really, and make it as true to life as possible? What are you looking forward to?
I'd have to, honestly, everybody's done a great job on the aircraft. The best feature from Tyler have been a lot of the ECAM functionality as far as that's concerned, and implementing some of these ECAM messages that appear on the ECAM page. That's really awesome. I have to say also the MCDU work that's being done. Lucky did a great job on the init page. I worked with him a bit, and Holland's been doing a great job on the or Ben or whatever his name is now. I'm not sure, he changes it all the time in Discord. The wheels page is starting to look really, really awesome. I'd have to say some of those features are probably the best ones that I can think of off the top of my head. As far as looking forward into the future, the big one, obviously, for the entire community, is probably going to be the MCDU. But like we said before, it's such a complex system in the aircraft. I mean, it's the interface for the airplane's computer. Once that gets developed and implemented, that's probably the most exciting feature to be fully functional in this aircraft. Because it's going to make it the most realistic, I guess. Also, the sounds that Boris has implemented have been fantastic. So I would have to say those are probably the best ones and what I look forward to, essentially.
Thank you. What about yourself, Boris? What are your favorite
Firstly,
things in the
thank
past?
you. Sorry. Yeah. Firstly, thank you, Aries, for that. I appreciate it. And the best thing about this entire project for now has been the community for me. It's been really welcoming and supportive. And the thing I'm looking forward to implementing the most is the engine sounds, because those change the entire atmosphere of the plane. So I'm very, very excited for that.
Fantastic. How about yourself, Ice?
Ooh, okay, so the recent feature I really like, obviously, is the lighting that both Avinash and Harry have been working on, and what I'm looking forward to. I'm a bit biased, but my the ATSU functionality I've been working on for like the uplink, downlink, all that stuff. I'm actually working on a bit of the CFDS as well. So if you don't know, that's kind of like the maintenance mode. It's like self-test mode in the Airbus that not even the FS Labs Airbus implements. So we might implement a few things there. Also upcoming, hopefully the next stable release are going to be a lot of like the hydraulic and electrical systems written from scratch. And I believe Tyler is also working on a overhauled VNAV system. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up in the future.
Thank you. We're going to skip it, purely because he hasn't got a microphone at the moment, but hopefully that will come very soon. So we'll go over to Pleasure. What is your favourite thing, and what are you looking forward to implementing?
Okay, so the favorite thing is, of course, my texture. No, I'm lying. It's not my textures, but my favorite thing is actually the van spinning sounds from Boris is one of them, and one of my second favorite thing is the new font on the MCDU. I just love how it looks now. And what I'm looking forward to mostly is the EFB, which of course means importer-exporter, which also means I'm looking forward to even like really starting to get to work on changing things. Because currently the only thing the modelers and textures can do is change textures. And I really want to start getting stuff in the EFB and the coffee mug and the tray table and everything. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most. So I'm really, every day I'm waiting and seeing Aiden and hoping more progress, and so I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah.
Brilliant. And then Sabes, same again to you.
Yeah, so my favourite things would probably be the lighting improvements and just the overall like texture work in general. I'm a pretty boring guy. I'm not into systems really, so just the look of the aircraft has definitely improved since the default. And for the future, I'm very interested in the TCAS implementation.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much to all of you. So it's quite an exciting time. It's been an interesting 2 months, really, and we're really looking forward to bringing you more in the future. It's exactly 2 months to the day, which I didn't really realise, to be fair, that the sim came out. So it's been exactly 2 months to the day that we started fully working on this mod, and hopefully many more months to come. So we're aware that we've had a lot more questions than we've been able to answer in this hour session, but we will save them for next month's Q&A, and we'll ask more developers and more pilots on their thoughts and views on them questions. So we'll keep them, don't worry, they will be there, but we'll also open up the channel again next month for you guys to ask your questions over the week prior. So, is there any messages for any of the devs or pilot to say to anyone?
I just wanted to go ahead and thank all of our contributors, pilots, everyone else on the team, or anyone who's been on our Discord helping out for all your hard work. And thanks to the community for the warm reception, just for all of our changes and everything we've been putting out. So thanks, y'all.
Yeah,
I
really.
would like to quickly as well, especially thank who is one of the engineers who provided so many nice close-ups so I can actually do perfect texture work. So everybody who provides us with information, and even just a simple bug report, right, helps figure out what's wrong, because most developers and for example me, I don't even fly the plane that much because I'm on the runway going back out of the game back to the runway. So the bug reports actually help to spot things and change things. So I think that's awesome as well. So thank you for that.
I'd just like to say my thanks to all the pilots and engineers, especially Ayers, Dan and Tarek. All great pilots who take their time to explain a lot of systems, got a great deal of patience when it comes to people asking all the silly questions, and providing documentation as well, and the contributors for doing all the hard work as well.
Brilliant. And last huge thank you to you guys, to the community watching this and interacting with us, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't be without you guys that we'd be having so much support. And as much as we want to do it for ourselves, we're also doing it for you as well. So massive thank you for your input, massive thank you for being a part of us and the team, and we hope to be working with you very soon and bring you more in the very short future. So once again, thank you very much and goodbye.